with shame, fear, guilt, and remorse. We've eliminated that stuff from the past. And we feel good. And therefore we don't have to drink in order to feel better. Now if we aren't careful, this is the point that we would stop. Because this is so good. For most of us, we've never experienced anything like it. And we would say to ourselves, this can't possibly get any better. And we may stop here, and if we do, we're in trouble. Because there is another spiritual law that's always applied, and that is that in our universe, nothing ever stays the same. Everything is either growing or it's dying. It's progressing or regressing. We look at a beautiful tree out here, and it grows and it grows and it grows, and every day it gets more beautiful until one day it stops growing. And the day it stops growing, it begins to die and eventually returns back to where it came from. The human body is one of the greatest miracles that God ever conceived anywhere. And it grows and it grows and it grows till it gets to be about 19 years old. And the day it quits growing, it starts dying, and eventually it returns to where it came from also. Now, the personality is the same way. It grows and grows and grows, and it becomes a beautiful thing. But the day it stops growing, it will begin to revert back also. And I'll begin to have trouble with people. And that'll back up in my mind, and I'll start having trouble in my head. And that'll back up into the spirit, and it'll block God out. And eventually I'll go find that other sense of ease and comfort that comes at once by taking a few drinks if I'm not careful. Now people tell us that 10, 11, and 12 are maintenance steps. And we don't believe they are. Because there's really no such thing as maintenance. Maintenance means to keep as is. And you can't keep anything as is. I know we use the word, and I know it's in the book. But maintenance means to keep it exactly like it is, and you can't do that. You know, this building we're in, they're going to spend over a period of time millions of dollars to try to keep it like it is. But every time they repair it, they change it. And I don't care what they do to it, eventually the sucker will fall down anyhow. Bill twice, once in his story, once in chapter 2, mentioned a fourth dimension of existence that they had never dreamed of. Another dimension of living far, far beyond the normal three. One in which we can make our contact with His higher power. One in which we can be relatively free from anger and worry and anxiety and fear and depression. One in which we don't have to make very many decisions. And one that I most certainly never dreamed existed. Let's see if the book doesn't show us some growth through steps 10, 11, and 12, far beyond the promises. Joe?
Okay, let's look at this fourth dimension. This thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commence this way of living when we clean up the past. We have entered the world of the Spirit. Now, we remember step 2, we believe. Step 5 was the beginning. And now step 10, he tells us we have entered the world of the Spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness.
Not stay where you are, but to grow in understanding and effectiveness.
This is not an overnight matter. It's to continue for a lifetime. Continue to watch for selfish, dishonesty, resentment, and fear.
What step did we look at that in the beginning? Step 4, okay.
When they crop up, we ask God at once to remove them.
What steps did we use for that? 6 and 7.
6 and 7.
Okay.
We discuss them with someone immediately.
And what step was that? 5, all right.
And we make amends quickly if we've harmed anyone.
And what steps did we use for that? 8 and 9, okay.
Okay, now according to step 10 in the big book, that it's a working of steps 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. If we look very closely at those steps, we will find that that's where all of our personality change took place. Remember, we didn't get any from 1, 2, and 3, did we? No, we just got it from 4 through 9. So it's a constant practice of all the changing steps, all the growth steps on a daily basis. You know, if we took step 4 each day, the more and more we will learn about ourselves, particularly as we talk it over with another person in step 5. If we ask God to remove these things each day, well, they will come less and less. And if we made amends to other people right away, our relationship with other people would be on a constant growth. There's no way we could work step 10 as the book says it and remain the same. We would have to improve. You know, one thing is a great problem with these steps, and Charlie and I, all for years, we always wonder, you know, some of the things that we do around AA, some of the nice things, they all got, you know, the steps were really written in the big book. That's where they belong, and that's where they were, and that's where we got them from. They were in our book. Somewhere later, we got decided that we would put them on little cards, and we'd tack them up on the wall. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. We put them up on our club rooms. But what has happened is people, when they get ready to take the program, what they do, they look up on the wall and read the step and interpret it as to what they think it means and try to take the steps off the wall. You know, the big book is the only book we have that tells you how to take the steps. And we find out if we take it out of the book, it's real simple. But if we take it out off the wall, we can make whatever we want to make out of it. You know, most people think that the only thing we have to do for step 10 is to make amends if you harmed anyone, right? That's the idea we usually have. And they also have the idea that you do that at night just before you go to bed, right? That isn't very beneficial. You know, as Charlie and I always say, we don't get in a whole lot of trouble in bed, you know.
Not anymore, we don't.
My trouble, I get into a lot of trouble walking around, you know. This is not, I don't need a going to bed step. I need a walking around step. And all we have to do, and it comes to step 4. When I feel a resentment, and I learned this in step 4, and I think this is why we have to have a good step 4 in order to work step 10. When I feel a resentment or fear, when I feel some guilt and remorse coming on, I know I can look at me right away. I don't have to put it down and go back through the resentment. I don't want to do that. But when I feel that, I can go right and look. I say, what part of self has been threatened? And I can see that right away. And then I can look and see which character defect has come to the surface. And I can spot that right away. And if I have to, I can talk it over with somebody. And I can ask God to remove it. If I made amends, I can get over that. And I can get over that resentment. Instead of repeating it, storing it in my bank, I can just process it right out of my mind. And I can go on. Throughout each day, we can do that. We can see when something comes up, we can process it and get rid of it right away instead of going and playing it over, because we know we've seen the benefit of that and what problems it might cause us. As we process these things out every day, we're going to grow. We're going to get better at living. We cannot remain the same. We cannot maintain. This is a great growth step.
You know, I find that if I get screwed up at 9 o'clock in the morning and I get afraid or I get resentful or etc., I can do one or two things about that. I can hold on to it and enjoy it. And by noon, I've got 2 more resentments. And by 3 o'clock, I've got a half a dozen. And by nighttime, I'm a basket case. I love to feel good. I don't want to feel any more of that stuff any more than I absolutely have to. So what I can do at 9 o'clock, rather than hold on to it, I can say, God, you know I don't want to be this way. I can look at me and see which part of self's affected. I can't be screwed up unless there's some threat to one of my basic instincts of life. I learned how to do this in step 4. I can say what character defect has come to the surface. It's got to be selfishness, dishonesty, fear, or inconsideration of another human being. And I can say, God, please take these things away. I can discuss them with another human being. It doesn't have to be somebody in AA. There's lots of people around where we work and things like that also know about this kind of stuff. And then if I've hurt anybody, I can make amends quickly. And in 15 minutes, it's gone. And the rest of the day is good. I defy anybody in this room to work step 10 the way the big book says and stay the way you are. You can't do that. You know, as you continue to search inside yourself, you learn more about you. As you ask God to take these things away, the character defects become less and less. As you discuss them with another human being, you learn more about you. As you make amends quickly, your relationship with the world and the people in it become better and better. There's no end to what we can do and what we can be with step 10. Again, if I buy into this, then I am responsible for the way I feel.
That's right.
Now let's face it. Once in a while I love to be screwed up. Once in a while I love to be mad. Because I can use that to romp and stomp and raise hell with other people, and that gives me a comfortable feeling of superiority. But I no longer have the luxury of saying it's their fault, because when I do it today, I know exactly who's doing it. Sometimes I like to be afraid, because that can justify not doing something that I know I ought to do. Or it can also justify me doing something that I know I really shouldn't be doing. And used to, I could say it's her fault or his fault. But when I'm doing that today, I fully realize it. And even though I'm doing it, enjoying it, in the back of my mind, I'm saying, you idiot, you're doing it all over again. I am responsible through this process for who I am and how I feel and my actions toward the world and the people in it. I didn't know you could handle this stuff before. Today I know you can. Joe?
Now, after we finish step 10, we have a new set of promises. I hear people talking about those on 83 and 84. Well, we don't talk about those at the bottom of page 84 and 85. There happen to be 12 more promises after step 10. And these are the ones we were really looking for. This is what maybe sometimes, this is what the steps are all about. And we will cease fighting anything or anyone, for even alcohol. For this time, sanity will have returned. Remember, in step 2, we said we were insane about alcohol. So that sanity has returned. Now let's see how we think about alcohol. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we will recoil from it like a hot flame. We will react sanely and normally. And we will find this has happened automatically. We can see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we have been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We're neither cocky nor we're afraid. This is our experience. This is how we react, so we keep, as long as we keep in a fit spiritual condition. We have been restored to sanity. We can make sane decisions about alcohol.
Page 45 in the book, it said the main object of this book is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. And we emphasize that it didn't say which will help you solve it or enable you to solve it. It said which will solve it. Now somewhere between page 45 and page 85, I woke up one morning and I said, Charlie, there's something strange in your life today. And I said, what is it? And I said, you don't want to take a drink. And I said, how long has it been since you've wanted a drink? And I said, I don't know. I could not remember when the last day was that I wanted a drink. Somewhere in this process of these steps, God reached into my mind and He plucked out the obsession to drink. Was it at step 4? I have no idea. Was it at step 8? I have no idea. I just know one day I realized it was gone. Now, God will not allow a vacuum in your head. When the obsession to drink was removed, it was replaced with a good obsession. I now have an obsession to stay sober. And if I work half as hard at staying sober as I did at drinking, I'm probably going to stay sober also. This is the double-double miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous. I know me better than any human being in the world knows me. And if I had to fight the idea of drinking on a daily basis, I know exactly what I'd do. I'd go right back to drinking again. The reason I don't drink is because I don't need to drink, don't want to drink, have no desire to drink. These steps have given me everything good that alcohol gave me and none of the bad stuff. The real miracle. Now, it's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. We're headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. We are not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Now, there's the word maintenance. One day at a time. Not forever. We'll maintain this building one day at a time. but eventually it will be destroyed also. Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all our activities. How can I best serve Thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It is the proper use of the will. Isn't that great? I made a decision to turn my will over to God in step 3. Now that we've cleaned my will up, after step 10 they have given it back to me. Because now then I can use it properly to seek God's will in all my activities. I'd like for you to notice the perfect sequence, though, with the big book Alcoholics Anonymous. They give me my will back on page 85. He gave me my sanity back on page 84. If I'd got my will back before I got my sanity back, I'd be in a hell of a shape. Joe?
Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from Him. You see the directions back in there? Who has all knowledge and power? If we have carefully followed directions, not suggestions, we have begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into us. To some extent, we have become God conscious. We've begun to develop the vital sixth sense, which must go further, but we must go further, and that means more action. Now here, very subtly, he said we have begun to develop the vital sixth sense. Now, we humans have basically 5 senses in which we operate. We can see, we can hear, we can smell, we can taste, we can touch, and we can feel. Now, most of the information that we run our lives off of, the data that we gather from the outside world, has been gathered by these senses, these 5 senses. But he says, this book says, there's another sense. There's a 6th sense of direction in the human life. And I think this is, what is really powerful, that we have an opportunity to do this. And I realize that most of my life, I lived my life off my 5 senses. And today I look at the value of those senses. A lot of things that I see ain't really right. And half of what I hear is any good. And so we're talking about a vital 6th sense, a real ultimate sense of directions. This is what step 11 is about, developing that 6th sense of direction. Step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. We shouldn't be shy on the matter of prayer. Better men that we have been using it constantly. It works if we have the proper attitude and work at it. It would be easy to be vague about this matter, yet we believe we can make some definite and valuable suggestions. Here we have to look at the author and sense what Bill is talking about. He was faced here in this book with a great challenge. And he said it would be easy to be vague about this matter, and it seemed like he wants to be evasive. This is a very tough subject. At this time, he didn't have a great background. Or did he ever, maybe? Particularly when he wrote this book, he wasn't a spiritual giant. But here he was, he didn't know a bunch about this. But he was attempting to write something on prayer and meditation. Many great scholars have dealt with these 2 subjects in volumes and volumes of books. This is a vast subject. We can think about how much prayer has been written about in the history of man. Our meditation itself is a very vast subject which many knowledgeable people have dealt with. Now here was Bill writing the big book, and he didn't know anything about these things. And he was faced with the task of trying to tell a group of people who were going to be spiritually bankrupt something about prayer and meditation. Now, this is a very difficult thing. And I think one of the greatest things that we have is this book. And I think one of the great blessings is that Bill didn't know a lot about prayer and meditation. Most people who are knowledgeable about prayer and meditation, theologians and great minds, who attempt to teach people that are spiritually bankrupt, they know it so well that they talk over their heads. But Bill didn't know anything about it. He couldn't talk over our heads. Now, he didn't attempt to teach us this, so this is, again, one of his masterfully ways that he did it. Instead of trying to teach it, which he could not do, he laid out a little daily exercise. And anybody regardless to where your life of prayer is, or how your life of meditation is, wherever you are. If you can take this daily exercise and practice it on a daily basis, sometimes in the future, you will teach yourself a personal life of prayer and meditation. He does not teach you. He gives you a system for you to teach yourself. What he does in the first paragraph on this page, and we won't go through them in great detail, but the first paragraph is what you do at night. It's plainly in that first paragraph of what you do at night before you go to bed. When we retire at night, we constructively review our day. And we look and see where we were each day. If we're not going to do the details.
Just tell them we got the sheet.
Okay, now you have a sheet in your handout that deals with that. That's your last sheet. And it has the little things at night that we can use, give you a starting point to look at God's will and self-will. Have we kept something to ourselves that should be discussed with another person at once, or are we kind and loving toward all? And we look at where we were that day. And some days we're on one side and some days we're on another. But at least it gives us some ways to know where we're at each day.
Let's emphasize that this sheet is also nothing new.
Yes.
The personality characteristics of the self-will person, we got those defects of character out of the big book and the 12 and 12.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do is move from the left-hand side of the sheet to the right-hand side of the sheet.
Okay.
And we can take just a few minutes before we go to bed and see which side we lived on that day. That shows us what we need to work on further. And if we work on those things with God's help, we've got to change if we'll do this on a daily basis.
Right.
Old self-will will die. New God's will begin to enter our life, and we become different people.
Okay, now that is a very good, definite, and valuable suggestion. That one thing can, because the more you know where you're at and you see, the more you're going to be able to work on yourself. Now the next paragraph deals with what we do in the morning. That one's at night. This one's in the morning. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking it to be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, self-seeking motives. In these conditions, we can enjoy our mental facility with assurance, for after all, God gave us brains. Our thought life we place on a much higher plane when our thinking is clear of the wrong motives. When we get up in the morning, this is when we get our minds together. We get our thought life together. We have our quiet time. I know many of us do this. Early days, my sponsor used to tell me, he said, Joe, I'd meet him every morning at 7 o'clock, and he said, and I'd be in a wreck, and he said, why don't you get your life together? You just like a damn goose. I said, what do you mean? He said, you just get up and squawk and crap and say, here I come, mean old world, and run out there, And I think this is true. We get up in the morning and think our priorities in our lives. We get up in the morning and we take a shower maybe, and then y'all comb y'all's hair. I don't do a lot of that, but then you got to shave. We men got to shave. You ladies got to put your face on. All that's important. And then we get down to that real important stuff, them clothes. Get them clothes out. They all got to match. This got to go with that belt. Get them right colors. We've spent a lot of time on that. Then before we leave, we make sure that house is locked. We don't want anybody to rip off our junk. We got to lock that up. And then we go out and get in the car and check the air and check the gas and everything and take off and go on out there. What do we do about our minds? Do we ever check that? If we spend as much time on our minds as we do our clothes, we'd be some great people. If we select the right mind this morning as well as we can select the right clothes, we can change our life.
And the mind's going to run the whole thing.
That's right. That's the main thing. So this is a very good, definite, and invaluable suggestion. If we do this once today, just one, it could change your life. And think about the one at night with the one in the morning. These two things can change a human life. Now the next one deals with indecisions, the next paragraph. In thinking about our day, we may face indecisions. We may not have determined which course to take. Here we ask God for inspiration, intuitive thought, or decision. We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. We're often surprised how the right answer comes if we try this for a while. Throughout each day, we face things that we haven't faced before. Like we are just on to face this earth for a short period of time. We have learned a little. We have had a few experiences. We don't know a lot. And we store our experiences and our knowledge and our information. And when something comes up there each day in my life, we all have a little computer. I got one of those little cheap ones up here. One of them little Sears and Roebuck computers. And all my experiences are stored in here. And when something comes up in my life, and when it happens, I go into my little information in my memory bank to find some information to deal with this subject. And many, many times each day, something comes up and I run it through my little computer and my computer kicks it out and says, we haven't had that one yet. And I run it back through. I said, hey, look again. They say, I told you we ain't got it. And that's frustration when you keep on trying to cut the thing off and don't know that much, Relax and take it easy, and I turn it over to God. And I realize that God has all knowledge and all power. And I realize God has about 10,000 great answers for every problem I have. But since he loves me and he has a covenant with me, he will allow me to struggle on the basis of self-knowledge if I choose. But if I let go and turn it over to God and relax and take it easy, the right answer will come. Sometimes it comes right after, or at least when I cut that off, I can go occupy myself with some other activities. I didn't solve the problem, but at least I can go wash the car or read the television or read a book. Maybe an hour, or maybe many hours, maybe the next day, and my mind will come back and I'll have some new information right here. It'll say, why don't you call those so-and-so? And I'll take that hint and follow it in my mind, and things worked out. Sometimes other people speak to me, and sometimes I learn from other people. And I was telling the other night, sometimes God speaks to me through some of the dumbest people I ever seen. So I listen to them too. And after we've said, what often takes, said the right answer will come. What used to be a hunch, we have all had hunches, but we can't run a life off of hunches. These things have to be perfected by use on a daily basis. What used to be a hunch or occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. Being still inexperienced and having made conscious contact with God, if we are new at this, it is not probable that we are going to be inspired at all times. We may pay for this presumption in all sorts of action and ideas. Nevertheless, we find that our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on a plane of inspiration. We come to rely upon it. If we work and perfect this, we can have something that we can rely upon at any time in our life. We usually conclude, and the next one deals with prayer. The next paragraph is prayer. How should we pray? We usually conclude a period of meditation that a prayer be shown all through the day what the next step is to be, and that we'll be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. We ask expressly freedom from self-will and are careful to make no requests for ourselves. We may ask for ourselves if others will be helped. We are careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Many of us have wasted a lot of time doing that. It doesn't work, and we can easily see why. And it's talking here to me like about fashioning a prayer life, a healthy prayer life. And our step says praying only. It didn't say that word for no reason. Praying only for God's will and the power to carry that out. That is a very difficult thing to do. It said we don't have to, and Bill said that, I remember in Monday where he read it someplace where he said one of the most powerful things he learned in the steps was using these two steps, prayer and meditation, to receive God's will in our lives and the power to carry that out, rather than in the past as he had used prayer by itself to sway God's will and list his petty needs. Using these instruments and not just a single thing. In all my life, I had always used prayer to sway God's will and list my petty needs. And my prayers were like a list of Santa Claus. God do this, and God do that, and God do this, and God do that. And that's the way I prayed, and it wasn't effective in my life. So I had to function a healthy prayer life. I hardly ever talk about this step, and even in haste, that I don't think about as I grew up as a kid in a church, my church. Charlie was born in the Southern Baptist Church. I worked in the Southern Methodist. Them Baptists had drowned you.
That's why he never did learn how to swim.
But we had a brother that used to pray in our church for us each Sunday morning, and I remember him so vividly. I've talked about him many years. And every Sunday morning he would do the praying for us. It took him about a half an hour to pray for us. And I would be just a kid in that pew. And his name was Brother Sanders. I never shall forget him. And when he would pray, and I think maybe I began my prayer life there, he would ask God for everything on the place. You know, he'd get up in the morning and he'd say, God bless the president and his wife, the sick and the poor and the shut in, the ladies' aid and the Boy Scouts. He'd just come junior choir, senior choir, and do this, God, and do that, and stop the war. And he'd go on for about a half hour. And when he finished, he had one set thing he always said every Sunday morning, and I never shall forget that. He would say, Lord, that in haste which we have omitted, please grant us that also. In other words, if we were busy and left it out, we still want it, you know. And, you know, you kind of go along with that, and, you know, and then we get in those prayer habits, and we come to AA, and these people, it was shocking. They said, don't ask God for nothing. I said, well, that won't work. How is he going to know what I want, you know? I can't leave him and work in the dark like that. But, you know, I really look back at that, and I think, godly, that is really true. You know, if I had been able to write a list, if I had 26 years ago, if God had listened to me, if God had given me the things I wanted, you know, how I would have shorted myself. I look back on my life in 26 years. God has given me things far beyond my imagination. And if that's true, then yet today he has in store for me things far beyond my imagination. So there's no need in me for the list of my petty needs, because I would really be shorting myself. You know what I mean? So this is all we need to, I think we're talking about here is it takes work to concentrate on that. You say praying only for the knowledge of God's will for us and the power to carry that. That's all our prayers are about. And to listen. The next paragraph, and this is the less. There are some smaller suggestions. Those paragraphs dealt with it. This bottom paragraph is going to give us some. I like to look at many suggestions that are very helpful too in a day's life. Applying night and the morning, a new prayer life, and indecisions. Now we're going to look at some smaller things we might do. If circumstances warrant, we ask our wives or friend to join us in morning meditation. That could help. If we belong to religious domination which requires a definite morning devotion, we'll attend to that also. That could help. If we're not members of religious bodies, we sometimes select to memorize a few set prayers which emphasize the principles we are discussing. That could help your life. There are many helpful books also. There are also some other helpful books that can help us on these subjects. Suggestions may be obtained for one priest, minister, or rabbi. Be quick to see whether these religious people are right. Make use of what they have to offer. A very good, definite, and valuable suggestion. As we go through the day, if we pause when agitated or doubtful, we ask God for the right thought or action. This is good. We constantly remind ourselves we're no longer running the show, saying to ourselves many times each day, thy will be done. A very good, definite, and valuable suggestion. Now then, if we use these things, what will we get? So we are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. Become much more efficient. We can get more living done in a day's time. We do not tire so easily, for we're not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. It works. It really does. We alcoholics are undisciplined, and that is an understatement. So we let God discipline us in the simple way we have just outlined. And I think we let God discipline us through prayer and meditation, through the instruments on the other pages on a daily basis. But this is not all. There is action and more action. Faith without works is dead. The next chapter is entirely devoted to step 12.
Somewhere down the line, we get the idea with step 12 that the only thing involved there is doing 12-step work or working with others. And many people try to jump from step 3 to step 12. And it's impossible to jump from 3 to the first part of step 12, having had a spiritual awakening. And it's possible to jump from 3 to the last part of step 12. Practice these principles in all our affairs, because we don't know what those principles are there. So what we really need to do with step 12 is first to be sure we've prepared ourselves for the first part of step 12. It says, the greatest promise, I think, in the big book, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. I think that's a promise to every one of us, that if we will use these first 11 steps in our life to the best of our ability, we will have a spiritual awakening, just as the first 100 did also. Now, what is a spiritual awakening? Well, it's a personality change sufficient to recover from our disease. Bill tells us in the 12 and 12 there's as many different kinds of spiritual awakenings as there are people in AA. But they all got certain things in common. And that is that we're able to feel, believe, and do things that we could never do before on our own strength unaided. And certainly we feel things we've never felt before. Well, most of us anymore can feel actual love for our fellow man. I never knew what love was. I always had love and sex mixed up together. Today I find love has nothing to do with sex at all. Love is true compassion. Love is understanding. Love is tolerance and patience. Love is wanting for other people what you want for yourself, just as bad or maybe more. I didn't know that, but today I can feel that, and I never could before. I believe things today that I never believed before. I believe God is a kind and a loving God. Before I dealt with chapter 4 in the big book, I thought God was a punishing God, and that He sends you to hell for lying and cheating and stealing. And today I don't believe God needs to punish us. I think we do a reasonably good job of that ourselves. I think God is a kind and a loving God. I believe He stands ready to help any human being anywhere in the world. The instant they're ready to give up on self and return to Him. I didn't believe that before. I can do things I could never do before. Well, I can stay sober. And I never could do that before. And because of the fact that I'm sober, I can do many things in life I could never do before while drinking. So surely, if we have received those, and we have had this spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. Now, the middle part of step 12 says, we tried to carry this message to others. Not a message, not some message, but this message. And what is this message? Well, this message is the message contained in the first part of step 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. You know, that's the only message we have. We can go to the suffering alcoholic wherever they may be, and we can sit down with them, and we can, through our story, talking about our disease, help them see their disease. And that's what it tells us to do in working with others. It says, talk freely of this disease. Explain to them what it is. And you know, that's really what the big book did in the doctor's opinion in Bill's story. And it says, then we speak freely of the spiritual approach, telling them how we had to use spirituality in our life to overcome our disease. And that's what the big book does in chapters 2, 3, and 4. And then it tells us in working with others, outline the program of action and walk freely with them as they take it. And that's what the big book does in chapters 5 and 6. So really, all we're doing, if we're working with others, is doing the same thing that the first 100 has done for us
In the big book.
in the big book Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's the only message we've got to carry. Now, some of us get to thinking we're healers. And some of us get to thinking we're marital advisors. And some of us get to thinking we're economic advisors. And I don't know any group of people in the world that screwed that up any worse than we have. Yet we try to tell other people how to conduct their lives. We know one thing, and we know one thing only. We know about the disease of alcoholism. We know about the recovery from the disease of alcoholism. And that's all we know. I'm going to tell you something. We know that better than anybody else in the world does, because we have experienced the disease. You and I know more about alcoholism than anybody else in the world. We know more about recovery than anybody in the world, because you and I have experienced recovery. Now, I used to think, God, why am I an alcoholic? Today I think, God, why am I not one of those that's dying from the disease? They tell me that 95% of us will die from our disease never even knowing we're alcoholic. Maybe 5% of us will stumble into an AA meeting. And today we know that less than half of us are recovering. So we're talking maybe about 2 or 3 out of 100. How come we are those? How come we're not dying also? I've got to believe that God put this thing together in the 1930s. I've got to believe that He got tired of seeing people die. And as usual, He worked with people through people. It's not any coincidence that Bill and Dr. Silkworth and Dr. Jung and Ebby and Roland and Dr. Bob and all those people, there's no coincidence that all came together at the right time. God used those people. Now, if He used people in the 30s that are all dead today, then why would He not still be using people today? Now, there's not an alcoholic in this room that shouldn't be dead already. Some of us 2 or 3 times. We woke up the next morning, we said, my, wasn't we lucky last night? I don't think luck has got a thing in the world to do with it. I think God picks the ones He's going to use. I think He lets them suffer their disease so that they will be of use. And then when God is ready to use us, He removes the obsession to drink. That's the only difference between us and those that are still drinking. God has taken the obsession away. We really didn't do that ourselves. There's just no problem in my mind anymore with what is God's will for people like us. I don't think God cares where we work. I doubt if He cares where we live. He may not even be too concerned with who we live with. I think what He is interested in is, what are you doing with what I've given to you so freely? Carrying of this message, the message of recovery in the big book Alcoholics Anonymous to those that still suffer from their disease. That's what we're for. But we can do it better than anybody else. I think we're the luckiest people in the world. God has taken a very unique group of people, and He has fit us with some very unique knowledge to literally avert death in thousands of people. Not very many people have that opportunity. I think He chose us for the job we're doing. Now, step 12 also said practice these principles in all our affairs. And we hear arguments that go on for hours about what are the principles. I think it's very simple. And how it works, Bill said, do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. He said the principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. What had he set down just before that statement? The 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. In the preface to the 12 and 12, he says the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous are a set of principles, spiritual in nature, which if practiced will expel the obsession of drink. Every time I've seen in his writings anywhere a reference to the principles, it was with the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Surely that's what he means. It's easy for me to practice them here in AA. I love you, you love me, and we're going to try not to hurt each other. But I only spend an hour or two a day in AA. If I practice them in AA, I can be comfortable and free and happy and serene here. But what do I do with the other 22 or 23 hours? Do I practice them in my home? You know, I spend most of my time in my home. Can I practice them with my wife? Can I admit my powerlessness over her? Can I realize the absolute insanity of me trying to control her life? You know, she don't like me to say it, but she's over 50 also. And she's not going to do what I tell her to do anymore. Can I make a decision to turn her will and her life over to the care of God? Can I inventory me and see why I need to keep trying to control her? Can I find those character defects and talk about them to another human being? Can I ask God to take them away? Can I make amends to her quickly when I have harmed her? You know, sometimes I'm ashamed of me. Sometimes I treat absolute strangers better than I do my own wife in my own home. Can I make my amends there? You know, if I could do those things with her, then my wife and I together could be happy, peaceful, and serene in my own home. And there's another 10, 12, or 14 hours a day that I feel good. How about with my children? Can I realize how powerless I am over them? Can I realize the insanity of trying to control their lives? The oldest one's 34, the youngest one's 22. They're not going to listen to Dad anymore. Can I make a decision to turn them over? Can I inventory me and see why I still need to try to control my children? Can I find those defects and do something about them? Can I make amends to them quickly when I have smarted off at them again like I usually do? You know, if I could do that, I could be happy when I'm with my children. If I can't do that, I have no life with them whatsoever. There's another hour or two a day that I could be happy. How about on the job? Can I realize that my powerlessness over my co-workers? Can I realize the insanity of me trying to control them? Can I turn their will and their life over? Can I inventory me and see why I still need to do that? Can I make amends quickly to them? If I could, then I could be happy another 8 or 9 or 10 hours a day on the job. You know, that's just about 24 hours a day. How about in the supermarket checkout line? Yeah. The little old lady in front of me has got a whole bag full of just little bitty articles. Takes them 10 minutes to add them up. They present the bill and she pulls out her coupons. And we got to figure the value of all them and present her with a new bill. And then she pulls out her checkbook. It takes another 5 or 10 minutes to write the checkbook, or write the check. And then she stands right there and balances her damn checkbook. If I could practice principles there, I could be happy in a supermarket checkout line. Wouldn't that be great? This book and these steps are a design for living that really works under all conditions. All I have to do is what the book tells me to do. And I'm automatically assured that these things will come in my life if I'm willing to do these things. A design for living that really works. I understand some of you were upset last night because we deviated from the program and we talked about traditions and concepts. Now, I think I can understand that, since we didn't ask your permission beforehand, as we should have. I heard a rumor this morning that the General Service Office had put us up to that. I want to assure you the General Service Office had nothing to do with it. The person that made that decision was me. I take full responsibility for it. And if I've upset you, I will apologize for that. But you know, how else are you going to learn love, patience, and tolerance? You see, you need people like me in your life. Every group needs an SOB. And this weekend I am the SOB. Let's close by going to page 164. Let's look at the last 2 paragraphs. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who's still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God, and we did that in steps 1, 2, and 3. Admit your faults to Him and your fellows, and we did that in 4, 5, 6, and 7. Clear away the wreckage of your past, and we do that in 8 and 9. Give freely of what you find and join us, and we do that in 10, 11, and 12. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. We love you. Thank you for letting us be here.